Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Career Crush Q&A. I'm Emily Aries, the founder and CEO of Bossed Up, and we are so excited to have Tina Pettigrew on the line today from New York City, who's joining us on behalf of Elevate Network, a global women's networking organization that is the go-to resource for professional women across the globe. Tina, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So just for a few reminders for our new viewers and those who are joining us, we encourage you to ask away while we're conversing throughout today's broadcast on Twitter at BossedUpORG or Emily Aries. And you can ask away towards right here to Tina at Tina Pettigrew as well. And we'll continue this conversation. We're both big Twitter fans here. So if you're watching this on our YouTube channel way after the broadcast has ended, you're welcome to continue the conversation with us there. Our Career Crush Q&As are really all about getting a behind-the-scenes look at how truly incredible women whose careers inspire me have gotten to where they are today and what they've learned along the way. So thanks so much for being here, Tina. Thanks to all of you who are tuning in, and I can't wait to see what we learn in today's conversation.
Yay.
Tina, tell us, first of all, what it means to be a community manager, senior community manager for Elevate, and what your role looks like now.
Sure. So that's a great question because one interesting thing about working at Elevate Network is that everybody does a little bit of everything. So part of what senior community manager means for me is I manage all of the social media for Elevate Network headquarters, and that includes talking to our chapters about what they should be doing for social media. I help with a lot of messaging and marketing, community building, a lot of strategy, working with partners like Bossed Up. So we can sort of further our mission to help professional women.
Awesome. And how did you find yourself at Elevate?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I used to work at a nonprofit called Workforce Professionals Training Institute. And what we did there was we helped workforce agencies in New York City sort of do their job better. So people who have trouble getting back to work because they're what we call disadvantaged populations, we help the people who train them do their job better and help them place these people in jobs where they were ultimately self-sufficient. So while I was there, someone on the board named Christy Wallace, I think at the time she was named Christy Cisco, remembered me. And after I left WPTI, reached out to me when there was an opportunity here. And she said, I think this might be a great fit. It's a place with a conscience. It will help you expand your skill set in community building and things like that. So I was like, yes, I'm interested.
I love it. And it seems so clear to me that the reasons why our organizations work so well together, and the common thread between your previous position and this is that we're really all focused on intensive training programs, right? Training that helps people move where they want to get to be, right? To move their lives forward and land either a job or craft a career to get themselves from feeling stuck to feeling sustainable. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. And I think one of the really cool things that has really kept me going in this particular job here is that community building is a part of professional development.
Right.
And I think that some of the best ways to learn are bringing each other together and learning lessons from other people's life experiences that you may haven't heard yourself. And all it really takes is like bringing people together and listening. It's really kind of magical.
It so is.
So cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of meta, what you're saying right now, because that's exactly what I believe, and that's exactly what we're all about here at Bossed Up, and that's what we're doing right now. Yeah. So that's great. So tell me, in a broader picture, I know you've held a bunch of amazing and variety of great positions over the years, but how did you get started in all of this, right? For those who are looking to get into social media work professionally, or looking to get into community building or empowering communities that are disadvantaged, how did you find your way here originally? What did you study, and how did you get started?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually just thinking about this last night because I think a lot of my developing in my career has really happened on the job. And I think that unless you go to school for something that's super hard skills, like engineering or, some sort of radiology or some sort of techie thing where you need to know very specific hard skills, I think that a lot of the workforce nowadays is learning what their skill set is while they're at work.
Totally.
And I think that like finding work that's good for you is similar to finding a relationship that's good for you, in that you do sort of like a lot of testing and you figure out like, oh, is this my strength? Is this what I actually care about? Are these the people I want to spend time with? You know, that kind of thing. So I basically landed doing this community management type stuff because I am a people person. You know, I mean, I actually studied health science and bioethics, health science undergrad, bioethics master's. I ended up doing internships at the Program for Survivors of Torture at NYU Bellevue,
Wow.
Nations, like a lot of really like intense ethical like quandaries and a lot of like really sort of gnarly stuff on the day to day. And I think that ultimately getting like a career path through my side job that I originally was in just to make money was ultimately for the best.
That's awesome. And it just goes to show you that your undergraduate degree doesn't define the rest of your life. I think,
Absolutely.
I don't know when it felt constricting, but at some point I think all of us feel like I've already chosen this path. I can't go back. I can't find my way back to this like wide open road of possibilities. And it feels scary and hard that you pigeonholed yourself into one definition. Have you faced a pivot point like that or navigated a change?
Yes. You know, actually, I just turned 30 at the end of January.
Happy birthday, belatedly.
2 months ago, but it really had an effect on me, because I think that's the moment that I realized it's more risky not to do what you love or what you at least makes you happy than to stay put in a place or doing something that doesn't fulfill you. Because I mean, ultimately, what's going to happen, right? Like 50, 60 years from now, you're going to be let go, instead of at least I tried every moment I could to work on something that I cared about, you know? And
Totally.
my family threw a surprise party for me, and I really just like was not expecting it at all. So I just like that really like totally went like this to me. And I was like, wait, like I woke up. It's like, you don't have to know exactly what you're doing to move forward. Just do what feels right and keep trying, you know?
Love that. I love that. And it feels so good to sort of lower the bar of expectations for all of ourselves. I think women in particular, we are such multitaskers. We are faced with so many competing roles that we're told we need to play to be the perfect friend, the perfect sister, mother, you know, wife, whatever. And of course, we want to have the perfect Pinterest board and the perfect exercise regimen and be a perfect employee. And so feeling that kind of competition over our limited time can be stressful, and lowering the bar to say, listen, I'm not perfect at this yet, but I'm going to try it, can just open so many more doors that we would never otherwise feel prepared to enter. I love that advice. That's really great.
You know what's something really interesting that I picked up recently is I've been doing it on the side, but I just started getting a little more serious about it, is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was totally going to ask you about that. Tell us,
good.
What impact has that had on you?
Oh my God. To me, it has just extended life lessons that I never would have imagined. And the reason I bring it up is because you mentioned lowering the bar, right? Well, I'm a white belt. I'm still a white belt, okay? And I plan on being a white belt for as long as I need to be a white belt, okay?
Nice.
But this is the thing. I've noticed the people and the culture of jiu-jitsu is that you'll learn that it's a lifetime journey, right? So there's black belts, but they didn't get their black belt because they were there, you know, for 2 years straight and whatever. They have their black belts because they stuck with it, and because they were once a white belt, and because they didn't hold themselves against anything, like any sort of expectation, because they just kept going with it, and they just did it because they loved it.
Right.
And, you know, being in the moment and really like learning and like teaching yourself things on the spot, like that's what life is all about, you know? That's the only way you really get anything great accomplished.
I mean, it's almost cliche to say by now, but being present and sort of enjoying the journey and not just being after a consistent level of destinations can flip your entire experience, I think. We were just talking about the State of Women conference that was yesterday, the State of Women Summit, the first ever held by the White House. And it was full of incredible women. And I ran into an old colleague of mine who is one of those champion women. You know, she like did her half Ironman recently. She was a partner in her own firm that's doing incredibly well. She's like set these big lofty goals and consistently achieved them. And she turned to me and she's like, you know, I think I need a new framework because I'm sort of not motivated to set a big new lofty goal, but I'd like to just be happy, you know, like what does that even look like in our hyperachiever society? I'm loving hearing what you're saying about like progress and enjoyment and taking time to do what you love. Like what a radical freaking concept, right?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I feel like that's a common thing for my generation, our generation, because so many of us are totally swamped by all this student loan debt that we feel like is affecting our future in a way that we have to step back and be like, wait a minute, yeah, maybe I will still be in debt when I have 3 children, which is terrifying. But I mean, what else are you going to do? You have to choose to move on and live life the way you want to, right? Because I mean, living the world of reality, you're going to have to pay
totally
what you really want.
Yeah, I feel almost like we have to address the privilege here for a second because you're pointing it out already. The privilege behind the advice of do what you love. Let's talk about it because it ain't easy, and I feel fortunate to have been able to. I like to think of entrepreneurship as like weaseling my way into starting a business. So sort of like somehow scraping by to figure out how to squirrel away some cash to bootstrap my company because that's how Bossed Up has started and grown. And that's not the same entrepreneur story than a lot of other people. But what do you say to people who are like, yeah, I would love to do what I love and make money doing it, but I can't because of student loans or because of job security or because I'm supporting my parents or because my passion doesn't deliver a paycheck. What do you think about that?
Well, I know nothing about that. I mean, honestly, I don't know everything, and I don't really know like what necessarily advice I would give. When you expose yourself to a diverse set of people, you really are doing yourself a tremendous benefit by understanding how the rest of the world lives. Just hearing that 62 million girls don't even get to go to school at all doesn't make me necessarily feel guilty for complaining about student loan debt, but it really puts it in perspective and makes me feel grateful that I've had the opportunities that I've had. I mean, compared to most of the world, I'm kicking ass no matter how, you know, and I'm lucky. I'm so lucky. So I think that when you do that, you know, the moment you feel grateful is the moment that you can really appreciate that sense of presence too.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I think that's a really good point. And also there's nothing wrong with first world problems either, right? Like there's definitely, I love checking privilege, but also I love helping people like you do at Elevate, like get to where they want to go, even if they are already okay. If they're already okay, that's fine too. But sometimes, you know, I always say like hobbies should have a significant place in our culture and our society as well. Like you don't need to go pro in Muay Thai to make it of value to you, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's, I think, finding that center, and really Michelle Obama spoke about this yesterday. By now, I hope everybody's seen her interview that Oprah did live on the stage yesterday at the State of Women Summit. Michelle Obama was like, you really, really need to get to know yourself first instead of jumping right to pleasing everybody else around you.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more because let's just be totally honest. You can't please anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. I mean, that's a lesson that a lot of women learn really, really late.
Yeah. Myself included. That's why Bossed Up exists, really. You know, like burnout was not fun, but it's also, I think, a conversation worth having. And I'm excited that Elevate is part of that conversation.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
So what has been your favorite lesson learned along the way? And this could have been learned the hard way or the easy way, but whether it's through the work you're doing at Elevate or transformation you've experienced personally otherwise. What advice?
I think, sorry, were you going to ask me something?
No, that's fine. Same question.
All I was going to say is that I actually wrote down 3 things before we started talking that I wanted to mention because these have been relatively recent developments that have changed my life so much for the better. So the first one is I realized that the person in the world who is going to put the most pressure on me in general in life is me. Coming to terms with that is like totally revolutionary. So and I did learn that the hard way, okay? Like literally the really hard way. What ended up happening, the culture that we have internally at Elevate is very, you're accountable for your actions. You work very hard. You are collaborative with the team, and I love that. However, what ended up, hear people say things about my job, like the things I should be doing in my job, and I took them and just like razor sharp made it, like set myself these super lofty goals, and I was putting so much pressure on myself to deliver certain things that the world wasn't going to fall apart if I didn't like do it to the perfect extent that I had in my brain. So what ended up happening is my body told me that I had too much, and I landed in the hospital with a kidney infection.
I'm so sorry. That's awful.
Thanks. Yeah, thank God. Thank God I'm totally fine. But it was, because talk about being fortunate, like that'll put it in perspective. This is what happened though. I'm like literally in the emergency bed, and I started panicking because I was like, oh, who's going to do this one thing at work tomorrow?
Right.
And then I had to stop and be like, Tina, you're in the ER. You're like, really? No. Like,
no. Yeah.
And then from that moment on, I really had to check myself. And I really had to I had a hard conversation with my boss about how I was pushing myself too hard. And, we need to set certain expectations and how I need to like be asking for certain things that I maybe wasn't asking for at the time. It was a pretty tough conversation, but thank God I had it because I needed to. And she was awesome about it, of course she was awesome about it.
Right.
Like, the idea that she wouldn't be was also something that, I had maybe really just built up that ultimately.
Right. And I'm loving seeing that become the new normal. I mean, I think we have a long ways to go, but more and more people are realizing that happier, healthier employees who are living sustainably can perform sustainably. And turnover replacement costs are high, right? I mean, stress-related costs in the United States were around $300 billion in terms of our entire corporate expense to mitigate the cost of turnover, absenteeism, stress-related problems, and underperformance. And so it's a huge problem. Absolutely. So I think smart companies are investing in their workers, and but what we need now and where I see our work being so important is making the culture shift so that it feels okay to do what you did. And it sounds like it was a brave move, and I wish it didn't have to be brave, right? Like, I think that's the next frontier. Awesome. What are your other 2 lessons too? I don't want to bogart the mic here. I love it.
Totally. I think that I sort of touched on this already. I've learned that nothing is perfect. I was a gymnast when I was younger. So there is, of course, that like, you get scored, right? And it's competition. So you have like this specific idea of there is actually perfect, and it's called a 10. And, Nadia Comaneci got one, more than one, so it's kind of like having these expectations. The older I get, the more I realize that in every situation, whether it's work, life, relationships, friends, you sort of have to weigh the benefits, the way you see them, versus the potential things that maybe won't make you feel so good and ultimately aren't good for you in the long run. I think the older you get, like, what's that term that they say? They say good judgment. Oh no, I lost you.
I'm here. Sorry. Sorry. Hit the wrong button.
What is it? It's like good judgment comes from making mistakes, and making mistakes comes from bad judgment.
I don't know. I haven't heard that before, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, you learn these lessons, nothing's perfect. You can't let things hold you back because, and also Sheryl Sandberg, she says done is better than perfect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. And then the very last thing, and this is more of a personal thing, is that I've really learned to trust my gut.
Right.
I tell you what, when I talk to friends and they ask me about guys or a job or friends or whatever, and they tell me these things and they ask me, what do you think they're thinking? What do you think that? I always come to them and I say, well, what about you? Like, what do you think about this? What's your gut feeling? And the reason that I really wanted to mention this is because I went through a personal betrayal, situation, about a year and a half ago now, that really made me question my own judgment.
Yeah.
I was like, should I have seen this coming? I started blaming myself and stuff like that. And then after a lot of work of thinking about it and analyzing it, talking it through, I realized, oh my God, had I trusted my gut in the beginning, instead of
so
questioning myself,
so true.
I ultimately trust your gut.
Well, it's such important advice for those women out there. And I think men and women, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are the kinds of people who are leading with our heads. We're analytical. We want research. We don't trust anything until there's evidence and proofs and proof and fact behind it. And that's how I led my view of the world for many, many years, right? I wanted evidence to be able to prove anything.
Science.
And then there's us, right, scientist types like you, right?
Yeah.
Then there's us those who are very tuned into their heart and their gut. And they might not be able to communicate it all the time. They might not be able to explain why they feel a certain way, but they listen and are led emotionally. Mm-hmm. And I think classically in our traditionally male-dominated hierarchical workplace, we've valued the analytical over the emotional. And in reality, you can't live life without both pieces. And I too had to go through a phase where it was like, oh, there's no right way to do life. There's no A+ in my report card anymore, right? I need to figure out what I want. And I don't need to have to articulate that or justify it or explain it and make a case for why it's the best choice. It's just the best choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because one thing that I've learned too recently that I have to remind myself often, or they remind me for me, the outside world does, is that almost nobody actually knows what they're doing.
That is so
We're
true.
all just trying our best.
Right. I love that. And I feel like students who I talk to are still flabbergasted to hear that. But it's important, It's just we're trying to do our best in the world and work hard and be nice to people, right? Just trying to do what you love and be nice to people.
Yeah. I mean, even those really strong, powerful leaders, you get them on a panel and you ask them questions and they say things to you like, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
Right. It's so true. And it's humbling, I think. What I love is being comfortable, those who are comfortable being that authentic.
Mm-hmm. Like Michelle Obama, the best ever.
My God, yes. Everyone go watch that right now. If you haven't seen it already, the whitehouse.gov put out video, I think, on YouTube, and it's awesome.
So good.
Well, Tina, we're coming to the end of our little chat here. I want to first thank you for being a part of this. Second, I want to remind folks that you can use the hashtag CareerCrush to keep up on our conversation. I've been tweeting feverishly over here, and you can ask our questions or ask away to Tina and I well beyond the parameters of today's time live. But Tina, is there anything else that we've missed that you feel like is something you have to mention or want to share about either how we can follow up with you at Elevate and learn more about Elevate, or just thoughts that you want to leave us with other than all that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think part of me working at Elevate Network has really forced me to sort of do the good things for my own career that we do for the women that are members, right? So this is a part of that. I want to make sure that because I do so much digital footprint and social media stuff for Elevate that it's important for me to start doing that for myself. I think I sort of pushed that to the side for whatever reason.
Me too. And I started Bossed Up. I don't know why the hell I did that, but it's true. It's easy.
And I think that something that goes along with that, and jiu-jitsu reminds me of this every day also, is investing in yourself and your career and your life and your skills and who you are as a person is a habit. It's a daily thing that you have to hold yourself accountable to. You have to be accountable to yourself because you're worth the time that it takes to write something that will, shine a spotlight on your expertise, to tweet about something that you find interesting, to frame yourself as a thought leader, you're worth that time.
Totally. Great point. I love that. And I think that's just as important for those out there who are in love with their organization, so they spend all their time doing things on their behalf, and those of us who are like jaded or stuck or feeling like I want out of my organization. You can and should justify time spent on your personal life, brand, self, career, whatever, too.
Yeah,
And whether you love your org or loathe it, it's equally relevant.
Right.
And I think it should be equally celebrated, too, from the top down.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Tina, thank you so much for our conversation today. Don't you go anywhere. I just want to remind folks that you can tweet at us at BossedUp.org or at Emily Aries and at Tina Pettigrew. That's with 2 T's. You can also find us and some takeaways from today's conversation by searching with that hashtag Career Crush. Once again, I'm Emily Aries with Bossed Up, and we will be back here next week, same time, same place, for our weekly Career Crush Q&A with women who I personally have a career crush on at 1 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. So thanks again, Tina, for joining us.
Thanks Emily.
Thanks to our viewers, and keep bossing. We'll keep in touch.